Hi, my name is Erik Almas. I'm a photographer from Norway, but I live and work mostly in the US, even though I do travel quite a bit. And I'm in deep gratitude to all of you guys who have followed my work for a long time. And we just passed 75,000 likes on Facebook, so I thought I would take a minute and answer some of the questions that you guys have. I get questions pretty much every day, either through email or Facebook or whatever media there is, about some sort of thing. So I thought, here's my chance to sit back and say thank you and answer some of the questions you have. I want to start with one from Mike Kelly. And he says, would you consider doing a Reddit AMA? And it's a online forum where you could ask questions. But for me, I'm a really slow typer. Sitting there in front of a keyboard is a slow process for me. So that's why I chose this medium where I can just talk about these things that I'm passionate about rather than typing it. It would not be fun for anyone in the forum to see my slow typing going forward. So a Reddit session would not be for me. So that's why videotaping this thing, and I think a video has a longer life, right? People can see this, maybe a year from now and still maybe get some benefit from these questions that you guys have so generously asked. So we're going to start at the top, and I'm going to try to do this fairly quickly because there's 50 questions, and if I spend a lot of time on each, we'll be sitting there for hours. So, Jasper Verlone, he asks, do you 100% use your own content? For example, with the Trondheim Torg shoot, fall edition, the leaves and effects. Are the leaves individually shot by yourself? Or are they stock? Now, I have to say, that was a very particular assignment. 99.9% of my pictures have the content photographed by myself. Now, for this particular shoot, we had to, in the winter, create pictures for spring, summer, and fall. So it was a really sort of tricky situation where we had to piece things together to look like the season that we're in. We had tons of leaves in the studio. So we tossed leaves in the air, we put wind machines on the leaves. So all the leaves you see flying, that I photographed myself. But some of the leaves on the ground, we did take some stock there of fall leaves on the ground and dappled them in there. And I just want to say that it's a pretty good question, but I always start with an idea and I photograph all the pieces I need for that. And for my personal work, there's always my own work within it. But sometimes for commercial assignments like this, you need to accomplish something that might not be in season, or it might be in the other side of the world, or there might be a bird, for instance. Some client wanted me to shoot an eagle and have that sitting on a branch, and obviously it's not that easy in the context of a commercial shoot that takes place in a certain spot, So for that we have used stock, and I'm fine doing it if it has a commercial application. Nina asks, when are you coming out with a new tutorial? And we have been so lucky to be really busy commercially, and I've not thought about doing another tutorial. The DVD that we created took a really long time and a lot of effort, and I still stand by the teachings that's in that tutorial. I could do another case study, for instance, with a picture, but the first DVD has all the things that I feel passionate about when it comes to teaching. So I've not planned as sort of a new big tutorial, but there might be other subject matters in the future for me. Anna, she asks, if you only had 3 questions to get to know a complete stranger you want to portray, which would you ask before you take the shot? It's a really good question. Now, I want to say this. Every person is different, and not every person should be asked the same question. So I think you gotta get a sense of who this person is, and I would start a dialogue prior to the camera being there. Don't hide behind the camera and then start asking questions. Get close to the person, start talking, start a dialogue, and get a sense for who that person is. Often people get insecure when they're being photographed. They get conscious about where they put their hands and what they do, and in that self-consciousness, I would make sure to ask questions that they might be very familiar with. What they like to do, maybe if they're athletic looking, what they do for exercise, things that maybe help them relax and let them just talk about something that they're familiar with. I wouldn't ask esoteric questions, that might be out of their comfort zone, making them even more uncomfortable than, what the photo session would be. So I would just try to be very open, very friendly, listen a lot, and let them talk about things they're familiar with. And I do hope that answered your question, because I don't think there's a recipe. I don't think there's 3 questions that you should ask. I often ask where people come from, where they grew up, what their memories are, what they're passionate about, things that are easy for them to talk about. So that's my suggestion. Adi Pankawi says, I probably slaughtered that name, I'm really sorry, but here she says, hey Erik, I love your work. I have a few questions for you. A, where do you find inspiration? And I get this question a lot. Where do you find inspiration? And this is what I would start with. I would start with finding what your visual language is, what you're innately drawn to, because we all have it. There's certain things that we truly are drawn to, that we gravitate towards all the time. Now, if you find what that is, and I talked about this on my blog, but you could also look at Scott Kelby's blog, where I did a guest blog just a week or so ago, where I talk about this process. So when you identify what you gravitate towards, if it's big landscapes, if it's intimate places, if it's big cities, if it's small cities, if it's men, if it's women, if it's old men, if it's, fashion, what it is, and then also the emotional content. Do you like something that's pensive, quiet? Do you like something that's exuberant and big? And when you know what that is, and you feel uninspired, you can just say, you know what? The things that really turns me on photographically is this older guy that reminds me of my grandfather that is in that setting, and just work on that. Just say, okay, these are the elements that I truly resonate with, and shoot those things. I would read a book. There's amazing, beautiful pictures in reading books, because in reading words, you would translate that into imagery. I think everyone does, at least myself as a photographer. I would see the people, I would sense how they smell, I would sense the places that's being described. And it's not a true translation from other pictures. So read a book, read poetry, and say what kind of pictures comes out of this that again translates into me and my aesthetic. So I'd say that, and for me it's exercise too. A lot of my best ideas come when I run, and running is actually, I realize, it's less of a physical thing for me, it's more a clearing my mind sort of thing. So I run, and through running, all my ideas start flowing, and it's first cleansing, as in the day-to-day thoughts sort of disappear, and then I start thinking about just other things. My mind just travels when I exercise. So I think some good exercise and knowing what you're attracted to, and then try words. I think that would get you really, really inspired. I also talk in the DVD about finding what you're drawn to, because some people are drawn to people, some people are drawn to landscapes, some people are drawn to concepts and ideas in the conceptual part of photography. So find what you're most drawn to and start there. Say, I love to shoot people. So start with the person. What goes on around that person? In what place is he? What does that place say about the person? What do you as a photographer want to say about this person? And through that you can build a picture. So I hope that talks a little bit to being inspired. It says what people inspires you, and just really quickly, everyone truly has something to give, I think. So every person would be inspirational in some way. That said, people that do things or know things that's intriguing to me, I find inspiring, because I feel like I can learn something, right? So befriending people that might be further along than you in the craft or in a situation that you'd like to learn in, befriend them, because those are truly inspiring people to me. Another question. C, I want to learn to combine photos in Photoshop like you do. What advice do you have? And We talked about this a lot, and I have to say for composite photography, it really starts with light. If you're going to put pieces together, they have to have the same light direction. So if I shoot a picture with the sun up here, then if I take another piece over here, I need to know that the sun is sitting up here for that direction too. So when I put those two pieces together, the sun, the shadow, and the light line up within the photograph. That's number one. Number two is perspective. How high is your camera? What kind of lens do you shoot with, wide or long? And how far from the camera is the subject matter, the composite piece. And that's really it. If you have those three elements fitting together, then your composite should be really seamless. And how do I describe my style? I think I'm seeking big moments that has a quietness to them. I like to say that I search for a quiet sense of beauty, and that manifests itself in all my pictures. I try to branch out to do more storytelling pictures, something that's more cinematic. I love color, a lot of it, but it's usually in a family of colors. So I would say it's a single family tone to my photography. I wonder if you could maybe link underneath some interviews that I've done that I've answered where I talk about my style of photography, and that might be more helpful and a little bit more time saving. Ming Chun Yen asks, hello, I'm just wondering if you could do a tutorial on one of your work, A Lady with Buffaloes. And that would be too long to answer here, but let me just show you the pieces. And it's a fairly simple composite. And here they are on the screen, and I hope that helped you out. Blas Watovek, I hope, says, hello, I'm also a big fan and I watched all your DVDs where you explain how to shape and work with natural light. But you rarely talk about your work with artificial lights, indoor, studio, soundstage, which for me is so amazing. So my question is, can you explain your work with artificial light? Working indoors and sets, matching flash with constant lights, working with flash for composites, light modifiers, that I use. Wow, it's a really big question. So I have to say, I just use the lights that feels good to me. I don't have one light that I go to. I really try to find for each picture what makes sense. So if I work in a studio and do a composite, it always starts with the background. I have already shot the background whenever I go into studio, and I just match the light that's in my background. That's really it. Maybe I add a little kicker to the person if there's a person I do in the composite, but overall I always light to fit the background lighting. So that's sort of the process for a stage. Now if I shoot indoor, it always starts with the feeling. So if you want it to be moody, I start with small sources that can create that mood. If it's bright and airy, I do larger sources that envelop the space. It really is a picture-to-picture thing, and I do feel it's irrelevant. I really feel like people got to understand what light they're attracted to, what light they really love, that they think, you know, falls beautiful on a face or in a space, and shape that. Use the modifiers that you know will give you that light quality. Big sources, small sources, diffused sources, direct sources. Know what that is. So next time you're in a bar, or next time you go to the theater, I mean, theater light setters are amazing. I'm so baffled anytime I go and see Cirque du Soleil, for instance. The light they have is amazing, and I learn a lot. So find places where you see the light you like, and then choose the modifiers that will give you that. So I know it's a shorter answer to what you want me to do, but to do a tutorial on light and studio lighting will be an awfully long time. So I hope that helps. Raymond Engemark, which I assume is Norwegian, says, okay, here goes. When you are doing composites, how do you address the sharpness and edges of an object to keep it seamless, pixel perfect? It's easy to get too sharp edges, he says. And it is easy to get edges that's too sharp. Now, I talk about this in the DVD. It's important to know the difference in edges, and the difference comes from the light quality. If you got hard light, you get hard, crisp edges, But if you have soft light, like me now, the light falls over here and it sort of diffuses the edge, and it won't be a clean, hard edge here. I think I learned this when I took drawing classes at the Academy of Art University where I studied. It would be crisper lines when it's harder light, and it would be softer lines when it's softer light. So when you do your composite and you cut things out, keep in mind how the light feathers across the edges. If it's a dark shadow side, just cut it clean, feather that edge by half a pixel, 1 pixel, 1.5 sometimes, then it's a softer edge. So I hope that answers that question. He got one more. One more for you. Let's say you were to evaluate your own images neutrally, for example in a contest, and you were to debate your own images. What qualities would you highlight as a viewer compared to being the artist? Composition, colors, photoshopping, storytelling, or something else? Wow. So if I understand this question right, you want me to sort of take apart my own pictures and describe them in some way. Now, I think that it depends on what picture of mine you look at. If you look at some of my landscapes, I think you would look at tone and light quality and mood. Now, if you look at some of my fashion work, I think it would be different. I think it would be more of the storyline. Most of the fashion work I do is intended to have a story, that there's an escape or a journey, or there's relating to something that happens prior or after to that picture that I take. So I think if you look at my fashion work, I'd say there's a storytelling theme here that often sits in a moodier palette. Now, if you look at my commercial work, a lot of that is warmer, brighter, happier, coming from a place where I just sort of take a deep breath when I try to envelop myself in a warmer, fuzzier mood that I like to portray when I photograph people for commercial purposes. So I think it would be very different, and it would be easier for me if it was one picture. I don't want to dodge the bullet here by not answering the question, but I think it would be different for each picture. And it's also hard for me to distance myself from each photograph and just say this is what I think my work is about. A lot of it is driven by my memories, my childhood where I grew up in Norway, and that aesthetic and the big mountains and the openness that I experienced when I went hiking with my parents and my grandparents, and the places, you know, where my family summer house is, and all that stuff brings you back to old memories, and that's what I kind of re-photograph today. So, hope that answers your question. Thank you. We're going to do one more on this page. Oh my God, there's 4 more. Sergio Trigger Happy says, I'm thinking on moving from Europe to USA to develop a career in photography or video. I already have an associate degree, but I'm not sure what city will have more opportunities. Any suggestions? And I think any city got opportunities, to be honest, but New York is by far the epicenter when it comes to photography in the US. There's amazing stuff that goes on in Los Angeles, there's good things in San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, but the epicenter of all things truly is New York. Now, if you want to do entertainment, I'd say maybe go to Los Angeles. A lot of that stuff is happening there, entertainment and cars. If you want to do fashion, New York is for you. New York is competitive, but it's also very gratifying and has a lot of people involved with photography and video and image making. So if your heart can stomach it, I'd say make a shot for New York. Mads Peter asks, what gets you inspired? Do you listen to music while you edit, and in case what? So I think I answered what got me inspired, and it always starts with a picture for me. I don't sort of use the retouching as a, now I'm going to create something. It really is, I shoot it with an idea of what I want to execute. And the Photoshop is really just getting those pieces together, more like a vehicle to make that happen. I don't sit down in front of the computer and say, now I'm going to create something. So I do listen to music when I retouch. I think that changes the mood. I am less and less interested in being in front of the computer, to be honest, and more want to be out there and experience things and meet people and take pictures. So music is a good motivator to sit down in front of the computer and finish off what I started out in the field when I took the pictures. So yes, I listen to music. When it comes to what I listen to, I'd like to say that I listen a lot to soulful electronica, and something that's soulful and electronic at the same time might be a little bit of a disparity, but I find that there's some people that do make really soulful, beautiful rhythms within the electronic space. So that's what I usually listen to. Dong Dui Koha, maybe? Sorry again for not pronouncing these names correctly. Asks, which software do you use for CGI? And I don't do my own CGI. I've not gotten into that. I started, but realized quickly that learning the CGI software would be starting over again. And as I just said, I don't really want to be in front of the computer so much. So I decided that I'm going to understand CGI and how it's made, and then partner with people that's really amazing at it and let them help me fulfill my ideas. The software that I know they use is Maya, and some people use Cinema 4D. So I think those two are the major ones. When I did my research on what I wanted to learn, everyone said that Cinema 4D would be an easier transition for someone starting out, as Maya was more cluttered. I don't know if that's changed, but that's the feedback that I got when I really sort of said, oh, I'm going to learn CGI because it's so amazing. But I realized that knowing how to use it and understand it and find ways to implement it in my work is actually more sufficient and better for me at this point in my career. So let me see. Raymond Engemark asks again, can you tell us with an image as an example how many hours you spend doing it? Wow. There's a lot of hours on retouch. If you look at, let's say, the spring image from Norway, there's a few hours there finding the background pieces. So I shot in Norway several perspectives of this shopping center, and I then go through that and I pick the pieces I want and I rough it together. So for me that's maybe 2-3 hours. I make the selects, which is another fairly long process where I collaborate with the art director on what the select should be, and then that goes in there and I drop it in roughly, and from there I usually hand things off. Early on in my career I did everything, and I still do at times when there's, especially editorial where there's no budget for retouching, but I usually then hand it off to a retoucher, and from there, in my experience, probably another 30 hours to make that picture happen, maybe longer, 40 or 50. It so depends. And with all the distractions today, I could sit in front of the computer for a day working on a picture, and maybe half of that was effective time working on a picture and the other was emails and phone calls and all this other stuff. So it's hard to say really. I'm pretty quick at Photoshop though. I've gotten it down, so I could probably do a picture without too many compositing. You know, the 3-element background, foreground, person, and a cloud. Probably do that fairly seamlessly within 3-4 hours. So I hope that helps. Anything then, I guess, is the answer, between 4 hours and 40 hours. Mohammed says, hello, how to develop my skills in processing colors? How to make selection for trees without facing problems with shiny edges? Your pictures usually sharp and have a perfect contrast, so what is my technique? How can I develop my skills in using perspective and vanishing points in compositing? So a lot of questions there. Let's start with the how to develop my skills in processing colors. And I have to say, color starts with the time of day you take the picture. It does not start with processing color. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they have a picture that inherently is warm and they try to make it nighttime, for instance. And it never looks right. If you want to shoot a picture, you got to tell yourself first, what is the color that's right for this picture? Is it crisp colors, that's higher light? Is it warm tones, which is right at sunset? Or is it cooler tones? Do I shoot this in the shadow of a building, or do I shoot it just after the sun has gone down in that blue hour, right? that inherent color quality is what I start with. And then I take that color and I enhance it. So often if I shoot in golden hour and have this beautiful sort of warm tone to it, I take a sky that has that warm tone as well and put it together, and I get this monochromatic sort of beautiful palette. I think that's where it starts. I never go ahead and say, I'm going to turn this picture blue and take any picture and try to make it so in Photoshop. It really starts with, what does this picture feel like? This idea that I have, is it warm, is it cool, is it bright and happy, or is it muted and desaturated? And I decide that and then shoot it at that time of day, and then I enhance that in Photoshop. That's how you really process color. How to make selection for trees, and trees are funky. I use color picker a lot, so you select by color and then you fine tune it one by one. The most efficient thing I think for trees is to use one of the blending modes that you have in Photoshop. So take the tree, put it on the blending mode, like multiply for instance, or take the sky and put it on top of the tree with the sky at the blending mode, overlay, multiply, one of those, and you will see that you get a darker sky on top, but then you can brighten that sky a little bit and you get a seamless cutout of the trees. So I hope that helps. I do think we talk about that in one of the tutorials for the DVD, where I do use the multiply on the sky on top and sort of feather and blend the elements, the tree and the sky together, rather than trying to cut the tree out. That's my process. There's so many ways to do things in Photoshop. There truly is. I know there's people that like to put everything on, perfectly cut out layers and put the sky in the back and then layer the tree on top and go through the effort of really truly masking the tree out. Now, again, as I talked about edges earlier, you got to see what the light quality is. So if the light quality is crisp on the trees, make a crisp edge. And if it's not, if it's softer light, make sure that you have a softer edge there. So hope that answered that question. My pictures are really sharp. They are. I like to have my pictures pretty crisp. And it's just shooting it, f8 through f16 and get a sharp plate. That's really it. Now, that has to carry through, right, the whole photograph if you want it to feel crisp. And then also when you put your pictures online, which I do, don't just rest them down, because then the pictures become softer. Because you toss pixels away, and in that process, they blur together. So make sure you sharpen your pictures a little bit after you size them up or down. How can I develop my skill in using perspective and vanishing points? It's fairly easy. You just got to be aware of it. So when you go out and take pictures, tell yourself, I want to have a vanishing point that's pretty far away. I want to have lines that pulls into the photograph and creates a perspective. It's really just exercise. You got to look for those lines. I talk about this in the DVD a little bit on how to create depth in photographs. So you got to have one element in front and another element in the back that your eyes will get led into, and that way you create perspective in your photographs. So I think that's what you meant, the literal perspective. Of course, there's a perspective when it comes to the emotional part as well. But for the literal perspective, just keep in mind foreground elements, background elements. Buildings and roads always have these beautiful lines into the photograph. So that would be my suggestions to start. There's tons of tutorials on how to compose a picture, so maybe check some of that out. Peter Marco asks, what were your biggest challenges when you started to shoot for composites? Was it more the technical side, or was it rather the creative side and subject matters? I think when it comes to composite, it definitely starts with the subject matter first, right? Because you want to do something that's not really there. So it starts with the subject matters. If you want to put someone on the moon, for instance, how do you accomplish that? And you start with the idea. So that's where you start, and then you find a way to execute that technically. Some is done by trial and error, others is done by experience. I think the hardest thing is to make it happen. How you do it on the machine, on the computer, is less hard. What you need to do correctly is to get your perspective right, your light right, And if that's done well, the composites, the technical part on the computer should be fairly easy. The parts should fall together. The question here is a little funny. It says, have you started out with personal projects or with assignments for your clients? Now, if I understand this right, where does it start? And I have to say it always starts with personal projects. So you got to build a portfolio, you got to show your capabilities and what you could do, and that is always personal work. And then the clients, they see what you've done and they respond to it and say, can you do that for us? So it's always personal work first and then advertising work after. Marcel Heinz, he asks, hello Erik, I'm impressed by the style and detail of your commercial work. So my question is, do your commercial clients expect the quality of medium format, 40 to 80 megapixels, or is a DSLR perfectly acceptable to do the job? It totally depends. Every now and then you get a spec sheet from the client that says we need this to be 40 megapixels or higher. But it really depends on the assignment, right? Some people feel like you should really do the highest quality possible, but what if you're in the water shooting someone surfing, or what if you're shooting someone running really fast? Then I would have a conversation and say, hey, what's truly best for this assignment is for me to use a smaller format camera. A format where we could capture frames really quick. It doesn't matter if we're in the water, we could put this in a housing, whatever it is. There's different tools for different pictures, and sometimes the smaller cameras truly is the right tool. I'd say 99% of the time, the DSLRs are plenty fine. 20, 25 megapixels is amazing. It really is. And for someone to say, oh, we need it to be 80 megapixels, I don't think I know any application really that needs 80 megapixels. Cameras have gotten so good now, and software to increase file size have also gotten better. And you can, I'd say 90% of the time, get away with shooting your commercial assignments on a Canon. That said, people sometimes ask for higher resolution. So me, I have complete faith in the Canons, and you can really blow those pictures up beautifully without really needing a digital format back. Now, that said, there are some lenses that comes with this digital medium format cameras with a digital back on it. That's really quite exquisite. You get some amazing size lenses, which you now also get for the DSLRs, but there's some amazing glass in the higher format or your larger format cameras. So that is an advantage. So yes, you can do your assignments, the first ones anyway, on a Canon for sure. George Leisler asks, can you describe your creative process from the first contact from the ad agency through the production to the delivery? What worked and what not? Any tips? So let me see. The creative process when I work with agencies at my level, really, this is where it starts, right? The agency gets a brief and say, this is our product, this is what it does, this is what we think it says. And the creatives, they sit down and they say, how can we describe this beautifully in a visual manner? What's the idea behind it? Do we make it funny? Do we make it conceptual? Or do we just get someone to endorse it? There's all these different avenues that agencies can go down. And often they take different concepts, at least for larger clients, and they send them out to testing. So they go to focus groups that's appropriate for that product, and they ask people what they think of the different ads. And when that testing come back, they say this is what people really responded well to, and that's the campaign we're going to go with. So all that process, the agency thinking about it, coming up with different things, coming back to the client, going back into testing, and then they decide for a concept, and then it comes to me. Then having been through that vigorous sort of testing, I can't really change it all that much. They really come to me with, this is the idea we have. Can you execute this idea with your vision? And I do. Often there's input. They ask, How do you see it come together? What's the color tonality? What's the palette? How do we get the whole concept done if it's a composite and if there's a technical part to it? I then write a treatment. I write a treatment on how I see it come together, where my emotional standpoint is, how I feel about the picture, and bring out some options on how we can approach it. Now, from there, I usually execute the idea clear. This is it. This is really what they want. Through this whole process, though, you connect with the creatives and the agency, and often, you do different options. You don't just take one picture and you say that's it. You try one angle here and one angle there, and you explore stuff. What I make sure to do is to photograph the layout or the concept they had first, and then I explore and bring myself to it more and do alternate versions for the agency that might speak, more to my standpoint or viewpoint or my vision for the concept. So that's usually the idea or the way it goes for a commercial assignment. So Bianca Boros Collins asks, where's the best place to purchase a comprehensive list of photo editors and editors' contact info to submit marketing pieces to? I googled this, and AdEdge seemed like the best company to purchase something like this from. So you can do that. The ones we use is Agency Access. We use Agency Access for the broader mailings we do, but we also keep our own lists. There's a lot of art directors that unsubscribe, to AdEdge and to Agency Access, and they don't want to be in that bombardment of emails every day. So you got to create your own list too. The people you worked with in the past and people you want to work with. Find what their true email addresses are and create your own custom list to reach the people. But Agency Access is what we use to answer that question. Another one, Yoppie Johannes is asking, hey Erik, I watched your DVD, blog, interview, etc. and totally inspired by them. Thanks for that, and thank you for that. Maybe this sounds a little absurd, but how you maintain your position as one among top commercial photographers? Well, you do it by creating new work, and that's really it. I have to say, if I stopped taking pictures for myself or just thought, I made it now, I don't have to work hard anymore, I honestly think I'll be irrelevant in a really short time. There's so much new work produced, there's so many amazing photographers out there, and I think the smart art buyers and the smart photo editors, they look at your website and they can tell if you have produced new work, they can tell if you're working, they can tell if you're expanding and creating new things. They can tell if you're getting better. They can tell if you're still inspired. If I stopped shooting thinking, I'm going to get lazy and I made it and now I'm just going to do some advertising jobs, I truly think I'll be out of work in no time. It happened really quickly. So to stay in it, you have to be passionate about it. You have to keep on taking pictures. And, I've been at it now I came here to study almost 20 years ago. And I still feel like I have to push to create new pictures, to learn new things, and I'm really excited about new still pictures that I'm about to take, and I'm really excited about the motion pieces that I just finished. We got 2 more in edit, and this whole immersion of still and motion is really exciting to me. So learning new things and staying excited is really it. I don't think there's any other recipe to stay at the top. Of course, there's the additional benefit when you get hired to do good things, that they get into award shows and other people see your work and what you've done commercially, so you get work off of that. There's also a little bit of drafting, so to speak. When you work with really big clients, they want to make sure that you have worked for other clients and that you can repeat yourself, so that you don't hire someone brand new that might get nervous and might fail them when they go out and execute their advertising brief. They want to make sure that they have someone that consistently performs. So often, they will look at established photographers and not the new ones. So there's, of course, a little bit of help in being established and continuing that momentum. But it really is about the work, continuing to strive to do better, really. So thank you for that question. On this next page here, it says, for example, Anna Leibovitz still shooting for high-class clients in the age of 64, and she can do that because she's famous. So did every photographer must search for that famous thing to survive in industry? And I'd say no, because I'm not really famous. I'm well known and hopefully respected, but you don't have to shoot editorial and be famous to be a really established photographer. There's sort of the editorial famous people that shoots at the top, and then underneath there is the echelon of photographer that I belongs to, where there's a lot of us that really have a great living producing beautiful work for advertising. So I'm really happy being there, and I really thrive there. I don't need to be famous, so to speak, and I don't think you need to be famous to have a longevity as a photographer. I know I mentioned this before, that the span usually for photographers are shorter. It's a lot of travel, there's a lot of time, and it's fairly intense, and a lot of photographers choose to have a shorter career where they shoot for a while and then they sort of taper off a bit. But I think that's a lot by choice. So I think you can have a really long, fruitful, beautiful photographic career way into your 60s if you choose to do so yourself. All right, so more questions. Maxim Ostromogoliski, or something like that, says, can you talk more about your photographic thinking process? Wow. It's a subject I'm passionate about. I would love to chat photography. I would love to, but I think we've already been sitting here for 45 minutes, and that would be a topic that would go on for hours. I absolutely love photography, and to be able to express yourself in pictures is quite extraordinary. I have to say one thing. When I started photography, I was more drawn to it because it was fun and it was just a cool way of capturing things. But as I matured in my craft, I get more and more connected to it as a vehicle for self-expression, yeah? I use it to explore things I'm curious about, and I'm also seeing myself reflected in the pictures. So it's sort of a two-way stream, yeah, where the camera gives me a lot, while I give a lot of myself through the pictures and the subject matters that I choose to take. So it's a self-exploration, really, and I think when I got to that point, I realized that photography is an amazing, amazing art form and a medium. It's not just snapping pictures, it's when you realize that it's deeper than that, and there's a social commentary, and there's a personal, true personal reflection in every picture taken. It becomes a different thing, quite extraordinary. So I don't think I'm going to go deeper into how I feel about photography past that, because it's such a broad subject. It's not just, oh, we take a picture and we have it and now we capture the moment in time. It's truly how we got brought up, how we feel, how we are feeling at the time, and how all that's reflected into the subject matters we choose, and how we photograph it, and also how we choose to edit it afterwards. So I think I'll leave it at that when it comes to my thinking on the photographic process. Maxime, and it's an amazing question, and I'd love to have sort of maybe a round table and talk about that, but I know this is, there's a lot of more questions here that I want to talk about. Another question, it says, because of you, I'm pushing my photographic voice. I'm wondering, are you using your portfolio as fine art pieces, and how do you sell them if you do? How do you know what price to put on them? Example, if you spend 60 hours on a picture, is there a rate that determines what you feel the value of the work is worth? One more question. Frames. I've always been liking for custom frames for either myself or clients. Framing costs tons of money, and I see you have some of your gallery. Do you frame, and if so, where do you get them from? Oh wow, so there's a lot of questions there. I love framing pictures. I love to print them big, and I love to frame them. I don't do it enough, to be honest. We do have a big printer in the office, and I like to print pictures out, and I look at them for a few days as I retouch, and I write notes on them, and it's good to actually see them in print, I think, and not just on the screen. When it comes to the framing, I use a local framing shop that's good and not too expensive. So Nothing really fancy there. I either use white or I use black. I like thicker, 2-inch frames, 2.5-inch frames. So it is expensive. I mean, I bought amazing photography, at charity auctions and other places, and you pay $1,000 for the photograph, and then you go and frame it, and if you choose to have museum quality non-reflective glass on that frame, just like a piece of glass on top of it's going to cost you $1,000. So I don't know what to say to that. Choose in the beginning, choose cheaper glass so that the frame gets more or less expensive, and put your pictures on the wall. It's just amazing. Just really is. I think seeing it day to day, on an iPad or on a computer makes it really fleeting. It's just gone. But if you put something on the wall, it's there for you to watch every day and contemplate. And I think that picture will grow on you, and you will appreciate it in a very different way. So I'm with you when you say that you prefer frames. When it comes to the time you spend on a picture and what to charge for it, I'm going to tell you this. For me and my work, there's always two parts to every fee. There's the creative fee, which you pay me to use my aesthetic for you to go ahead and take that picture and sell or market something with it. That's what we call the creative fee. And then we have sort of the day rate, which is for my time. So you should never value your pictures just for the time it took for you to make it. You should have here's my day rate, this is the time it took to travel to the place, the time it took to shoot it, and the time it took to retouch it. That's a practical part. But then there's also a usage rate you should charge your clients. That's really what the market can bear. It can be, a few $100s, it can be thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's a little bit up to you, and also what people are willing to pay, really. So next time you make an estimate or you're going to sell something, you can say the practical value is this, and the creative fee is that, and the real fee to buy this picture is $1,000. That's $200 worth of time, and it's $800, for instance, worth of creative. So I hope that answers your question. That's how we price commercial photography anyway. Liam, he says, "Hi Erik, I've loved your work since first discovering it a few years ago doing an assignment." Thank you for that. I was just wondering, as I'm nearing the end of my photography degree in the coming weeks, how did you find your study impacting the development of your career? And how did you find breaking into the industry and getting assisting work after graduating? Wow. So I had some amazing teachers, really, that changed the course of my life in some ways, because I came to study sports photography, just wanted to do a few years and then go back and shoot sports. And my goal was to travel the world shooting the Olympics and World Championships. And then I had teachers that really inspired me, and photography became this amazing thing. And it's taken me on a completely different journey. So now I still travel and I still see things and experience amazing places, still doing photography, but it's not within the context of sport. So the question was, how did you find your study impacting the development of my career? And I guess monumental is a big word. I mean, there was a few teachers that for me truly were passionate about teaching and gave everything they had just to help me out becoming a better photographer and a better person. So studying for me was an amazing thing, and I would not change that whatsoever. How did I find breaking into the industry and getting assisting work after graduating? And I answered this a couple of times, and I talk about this in interviews that's already online as well. But it was a really tough time. I managed to get assisting work, working for some of the 3 photographers that I really wanted to work for, and really happy about that. That was instrumental in my career as well, to work for someone that was an amazing photographer and also willing to share. Not sort of possessive about their craft, but really open, let me borrow equipment, and really was willing to teach. So that was important. The struggle really was breaking into the market, and I think it's even harder today than it was when I did it, but I was at the threshold of giving up, not wanting to continue all sort of that stuff that a lot of people go through, and I did that as well, and I stuck with it, and I think that maybe is my biggest advice, for new photographers, is to stick with it. Don't give up on that path, and eventually you will be rewarded. So I think that will answer that question. Another question here says, love your work and thank you for sharing, Erik. Instead of going too much on your style, you mentor people to find their own photography, voice and style. I'm a huge fan of your photos and putting myself into compositing world. Again, thank you for sharing your knowledge. That was not a question, but thank you. That truly means quite a bit. Ellen says, give your number one advice for a high school student wanting to break into the photography industry as a fashion high-end portrait photographer. So she says in parentheses, along with the years of hard work, of course. I think if you want to do fashion, you got to understand fashion, right? Understand what it is and what it says about culture, how it shapes culture, and how it pushes culture. Everyone just thinks fashion is beautiful women, but I think it's a complete misrepresentation of the visuals that good fashion photographers and good fashion editors really do. They shape cultures, they shape trends, they shape what I'm wearing today. So watch the September issue, an extraordinary movie that will give you some insight into what it maybe takes. I think you would need to have a really good understanding of who you are yourself and how you relate to those changes and how you relate to fashion, because that will also shape how you shoot it. So I would just continue to explore not just photography, but also fashion and culture and how things change and how you can affect that through clothing. I do fashion for a different reason almost. I like fashion because there's an intrigue to me in the storytelling aspects of it, and I love photographing beauty. Everything I do I feel, has a sense of beauty to it, and of course, women is a part of that. So when I do fashion, it's telling stories that I really relate to, and then having women sort of in those scenes. I love fashion, but I don't come to fashion photography in a purely fashion-y way. And I think you need to do so if you want to succeed, truly succeed as a fashion photographer. I'm an advertising photographer and I'm an editorial photographer, and on the editorial side, I really do it for fun. I don't do my editorial work to pursue fashion. I honestly feel I'm too romantic almost for it. I have a very classic style, and fashion is more edgier, pushing boundaries. So I'm truly happy working in advertising, doing what I do, and having fun with editorials on the side. So I hope that answered your question. Maybe not the best answer, but just get to know yourself and how you can relate yourself to what people wear and how they carry themselves. I think that would be a great start for fashion photography. So Dairy Photo says, I love some feedback on my own work. And a lot of these questions have been applicable to a lot of people. And Dairy, I said I would answer any questions, so I will try to answer. I'll give you some quick feedback on your pictures. And I looked at your website, and what struck me at first is that you have a great sense of light, beautiful places. So this is what I really think, and this is what I think you should benefit from, because you have a good eye, there's beautiful pictures there, and you have a good sense of light. What I feel that you might improve upon, and if you learn this, you will become instantly, I think, more successful in your pictures. All your pictures are compositionally really flat. So for this, for instance, there's just nothing there. It's beautiful light, there's a beautiful scene, and it makes you feel something, but there's nothing here that catches your eye. And I think you're going to run. These videos you're going to see now on the screen are of paintings with people, but you get the idea. If there's one element that leads your eye to a second element, that will lead your eye to a third element, that will lead your eye back to the first. If there was a foreground rock here, and then there was a barn here, and there was another element here, your eye would travel like this, in between these elements, and the viewer will then be caught within your pictures in a very different way. It's a very, very classic way of composing. All the painters does it. They've done it for hundreds and hundreds of years. So look at old paintings, look at these little videos that we're playing now and understand the way composition is and how your eyes get caught within a frame. I think you being conscious of that will really, really change your pictures. So keep on doing what you're doing, add those elements within the frame, and that will be my feedback for you to sort of take your pictures a step further. I have to say though, it's beautiful stuff that you do, but compositionally I think you could work with the depth and work with those compositional elements. All right. Grant McCall says, when shooting for composites, how do you go about this technically? Do you take notes of height of tripod, distance to subject, etc.? And yes, I do. So again, as I mentioned earlier, 3 things, yeah? It's the light, the direction of the light, the distance to the subject, and then also the lens you use. Then you shoot things with a wide lens, it's going to distort the landscape outwards. If you shoot with a long lens, it's going to compress it inwards like this. So if you shoot one element like this being really wide and you want to put it in a compressed landscape, it's never going to look right. So make sure you get your distances, camera height, light quality, and the lens sort of width matching up. And when you do, all the composites are going to fall together. It really is that simple. So reading down my list of questions here, there's a few that's not questions. So Saraya, thank you so much for the compliments. Axum, thank you so much for the compliments, truly. Bill Maurice Roman asks, after you graduated from the Academy of Art, did you get any other training? Or you went straight from school and started working? It wasn't easy to get jobs. And I got tons of training. So I did 4 years of school, and then I worked as an assistant for 2.5 years. And I loved school because I was in an environment where I photographed all the time. I got into the habit of really taking pictures, which was amazing. And then I got into assisting, and that was a completely different set of learning. I got to see one guy work and see how he ran his business, and that's very different, right? I graduated from the academy with best portfolio in the spring show, and I thought, oh, now I'm a photographer. And then I get this full-time job as an assistant, and my first job was showing up 3 o'clock in the morning at the studio to go and shoot for Audi cars. And I was completely lost. I had no clue what was going on. And I have to say that photographer was really brave in hiring me. But it was a very different learning experience. That's photography being used practically and not just emotionally, which is in school. So, yeah, no, I didn't just start working. I paid my dues by assisting for 2.5 years, and then I went into freelance retouching and freelance assisting a little bit while I did my own jobs. So that was a long, long journey. Not just, oh, now I'm out of school and I'm going to start working. I think there's very, very, very few photographers that is so exceptionally good that they can come straight out of school and start working. And then there's the whole thing about marketing and building a network and finding the people you're going to work for, and that doesn't just happen either, no matter how great you are. So, yeah, make sure to market yourself before you're done with school so that people start knowing about you. Michael Allen says, can you come to Houston and teach a class? And I would say later. I'd love to come to Houston and teach a class. For now, I'm so busy doing what I love, and I'm grateful for that. And when I slow down, maybe 5 years, when I'm 6 years, 7 years, maybe 10 when I'm past 50, I can slow down and go and teach, which I love to do. I really enjoy teaching. So, Seth asked, how can I buy a piece of your work from my home? And I would say, Seth, I would be so flattered if you wanted to buy a piece. And what you do is to send an email to phyllis@erikalmas.com and then look at on my webpage under contact and send her an email. And she will help you out with a picture and what the prices are. So thank you for that. Almost done, almost done. Timon Bonner, he asks, Erik, you're awesome. Thank you. It's not a question, but thank you. I love your work and the guest blog post that Scott Kelby. It was such help. Thank you. My question, will you be in Germany next time or next year? And can I join you to take making off photos or just sitting in the corner and watching you doing your work? And you know, I get these questions a lot, and the answer is probably no. And I'm not doing that to be selfish or secretive. because I truly believe in not having secrets and sharing it wherever you can. But I've also, it's a fairly professional thing when you come into a studio and you shoot pictures. There's art director or two from the agency. There's account services, one or two from the agency. 1, 2, 3, sometimes more clients. And within that context, I want to be as professional as I can, and to have someone just sit in a corner to see and learn. It's probably not appropriate. Often, we sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, so you can't talk about what we photograph, you can't share it before the pictures are out. More and more clients and agencies are very careful about social media, what we share while we're on set. So to just have someone sit and see what we're doing would probably not be appropriate for most of the shoots that we do. Now, if you would want to assist and help out, you would, often when I post that I'm in a certain place, either we have already left or we already hired the people by the time they get there. So I would network and put yourself out there, maybe shoot an email again to Phyllis and say, I'm in Germany, and if you ever come here to shoot, I'll be happy to assist. That would probably be the way to go about it. So, another long answer. I'm sorry there. For some reason, I can't do short answers today. Chris Simino asks, what people inspire you? Who is your best model in life? And wow, so I got that question earlier, right? Who inspired me? So I'm going to tell you, right now I'm inspired by a few people. Some are photographers and some are not. And I'm inspired by the intensity and the passion of some of my friends. Some people that I know that's not such good friends either, but the enthusiasm in which they live their life and what they bring to everything they do is really inspiring. And I'm inspired by that for sure. And there's a few photographers who I follow, both Instagram and Facebook, who just do beautiful work so consistently, and it's really inspiring, truly. I just bought myself a small camera. I bought a Fuji EX1, and so I'm a more big thinker. I like to come up with an idea and then I go shoot it. So in the end of the month, sometimes I shoot 10 pictures and other times I shoot 2, which is not a lot. So I bought this camera, inspired by these people who I follow, to try to create pictures every day, all the time. Not just the big ideas and the beautiful, perfect images, but also pictures that's more intimate, simpler, just to get in the habit of creating all the time. So those are the people that inspire me now, more so than the big stars, right? I'd say Stephen Klein is really inspiring. Dark and moody and disturbing and sexual and all that stuff is in his work. Opposite to me, which is very more romantic and subtle, but still inspiring. But I think, so we all get inspired by the pictures we see every day, but the ones that's closer to me are the ones that really inspires me, and I think it's because I can really relate, and I can probably act on it easier. If I see amazing pictures in Vogue, for instance, it seems this far ahead and it's hard to sort of relate to it in some ways, versus the ones close to me, I can see that, oh wow, they're really acting on this exuberance, or they're taking pictures of me, whatever it is, it connects with me in a different way. So that's who inspired me at the moment. Damn, another long question. When it comes to my best model in life and my mentor, it used to be the guy I assisted for, Jim Erickson, for a long time, obviously. Then, since then, I've been reading a lot of books, to be honest. Haven't had one mentor, but a lot of them. I read a lot of essays on photography. I read quite a bit of, motivational books, self-help books. Anthony Robbins is one. Seth Godin is another. Timothy Ferriss is another. So there's inspiration there, so there's wisdom that you can apply to your photography. So yeah, you don't have to be with someone to let them mentor you. You can read their books and absorb their passions and study them from a distance without really knowing them, and with that you can be mentored. which is so fascinating by the internet, that I can share with not just one or two in a conversation, but now thousands, through this recording. So find yourself people like that you like. Gary Vaynerchuk, oh my God. I started following Gary Vaynerchuk years and years ago when he only did wine. And I'm a wine lover myself, and he transpired that into reaching people through his wine blog into being a guru now, pretty much, if there's such a word, on social media. So it's really fascinating, and that's inspiring. And he's so willing to give, and he can be a mentor for a lot of people. So that's my thought on mentorship in the day and age of digital media. Danny is asking, how do you go about planning a project from start to finish? How do you choose your backgrounds, etc., that leads to your final picture? Again, I touched on it earlier. It's really what you crave from here. What is it that you like? Do you like cityscapes? Do you like... So listen to this. If you like a big city, ask yourself, when do you like it? Do you like it in the morning? When it's quiet, sun comes up, you feel sort of come to life? Do you like it at night? Do you like the nightlife? Do you like the density of it, the moodiness of the city, and all the artificial lighting? Is that what you like? Do you like it in the middle of the day and it's just people, 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 and there's all this energy? You've got to find what that is for you. And when you know what that is, then you go and shoot it. At the time when you like the light, at the time when you like the mood and atmosphere. So, it's hard for me to answer these questions. I feel like I've answered them already. So when I plan my projects, it really starts with that. It starts with, this is what I'm drawn to, this is how I feel, and I want to go and take pictures of that. I don't want to get too personal, but I've been through some changes recently, and I have a lot of emotions and a lot of things that I want to express and take pictures of. And I have tons of note cards now on my table at home. Didn't really want to be in my office, so I laid it out on my dining table. And I'm sort of nurturing that idea of how I want to express how I feel at this moment. Also, sometimes I think about motion, right? More and more still pictures now that can relate, and also what I do myself. And one picture I want to do is on biking, and how that is an escape from the city into the quietness. So I make those two things together. Biking is one thing I like, and the idea of coming out of the city and finding quietness is one. So I'm going to create this journey with this biker, from big city, dense, dark energy, into quiet, soulful nature, that kind of energy. So my projects really start with what I feel like, I guess, and what's important to me, what I want to say. When I was younger, I didn't think like this about photography, but you have to. Then I was just, oh, this is so much fun. I want to take pictures of people skiing because that's what I love, the power and the energy. The sooner you realize that even that fun thing is in motion, and if you like shooting fun things, pursue things that's fun to you, take pictures of it. As soon as you find that photography is a vehicle to self-expression, you'll be in a great place. So, another long answer, but that's what the process is, really. It starts with what you want to take pictures of. So the next question, Thomas Nickel Photography says, "Dear Erik, how do you come up with your creative ideas? What inspires you, and how do you deal with block creativity?" Now, another good question when it comes to this thing of creating, and I think creating is a habit. And the previous question I was asked about who inspires me, and that's people that takes pictures more often than me. So I bought a small camera to take more pictures. And I'm not doing that because I want to take more pictures. I'm doing it to get into the habit of shooting more, and I think I can learn something from it. To not think so much about the big ideas and creating all the time, but the smaller moments. So if you feel like you're completely blocked, that you can't come up with a single picture to take, stop thinking and start doing. Pick up a camera and walk out the door. Do it at sunrise. Quiet. It's my favorite time of day. Walk around, see things, take pictures. And I think
think you will be inspired. Ask yourself, where do you want to go? What inspires you? If it's the beach and you can't afford to go to Hawaii, go to the beach where you live. Or if you don't live close to a beach, if there's mountains, get up and see things, if you like nature. Run, like I talked about earlier. Run, get some energy flowing through your system, and then read a book. Honestly, you can watch movies too, by all means. I get so inspired by movies. There's so many amazing cinematographers out there that within a movie that's an hour and a half can create amazing picture after amazing picture after amazing picture, and be inspired by that. Now, if you're inspired by a certain movie, ask yourself, don't go and copy that. Ask yourself, why do you like it? Do you like it because of the styling, the period? Do you like it because of the color palette, the tonality, the acting, the emotions? What is it? And when you find what that is, you cannot help but be inspired. Because then you have an idea of what to photograph. I like people that's dressed like that movie, and I like that person because it gives that expression. And you go and find a person like that, and you put it in a place with that light quality, and then suddenly you create something that you resonate with, and that's where creativity comes from. So, that said, if you're really in the gutter and you don't want to take pictures, you gotta let that be. I think taking a step back and don't taking pictures for a while could be useful as well. So, bada bing, bada boom. I think I have recorded an hour and a half. Right? Mike is my assistant that just left after a little bit more than 2 years. And to talk about that too, I want to say thank you. If any of you watch this that submitted resumes, we got a lot of them. We have a short list in my bag right there of about 8 resumes that I will go through this next week, and we will be in touch. I'm excited starting a new chapter, having another assistant. So, of course, Mike Byrne, good luck, and then off we go. Thank you again, 75,000 times. Cheers.